Welcome to Biz Meds with Darris and Saad, where we give you the medications for your business. This podcast is all about the minimum effective doses you need to make a massive improvement in your business. Listen and enjoy.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Biz Meds. We're your hosts. My name is Saad.
And I'm Darris.
Today's episode, I want to talk about something that we keep hearing from a lot of people constantly, and it comes down to one of the things where, we'll, as we talk more about it, we'll kind of piece it together, but the purpose is people wanting to understand how do they become the people they're envisioning themselves to be. How do they grow their businesses to where they think they should be at?
Yeah, there's usually a disconnect with where people believe they should be and want to be, and they have this, I guess, a mental framework of viewing the world, and they then wonder why am I not achieving the things that I believe I should be able to achieve? And that's where we're gonna dive into that one today, and then we'll see where the winds of fate take us.
Well,
podcast.
So one of the things we've talked about several times before is, you see all these social media porn gurus telling you like
productivity porn gurus. You're gonna get us banned. I'm now gonna have to bleep that out.
This is the first time I think we've had to edit it that way. But productivity porn gurus.
Yes. Or the people that believe that you just need to optimize everything.
Every single thing.
Yeah, every single thing.
And then they show like their edited versions of their lifestyles on how they've got everything that they have always wanted by doing, by optimizing every single moment.
Yeah.
So you see that as a viewer, and immediately your brain goes to like, well, I want that too. How do I get that?
Yeah.
But they don't explain that everything else around to get to that point of their lifestyle that they have or that they're displaying requires you to make some type of sacrifices, make some type of adjustments, and improve upon who you are currently to get to where you are.
Yeah, how many times have we said it, right? Like the whole point of this game of business is that if you are looking to grow your business, if you have ultimate purpose and wanting to go beyond, then you have to lead yourself. Mm-hmm. You have to be able to move yourself to places that you've never been before.
Yeah.
You can't operate the same level and think that you're somehow going to get better.
Yeah. And this is why I keep coming back to, then I always feel super grateful for this, is the book that you recommended, What Got You Here Won't Get You There. Right? And this is why I find that to be a framework that you continuously utilize throughout life, because again, coming back to the idea of people seeing, hey, I want to be there, I want that, but I don't want to do anything else to get there. I just want it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So we can jump into this one. So we touched on it, and it's the idea or the belief that most, I'll say people, business owners, specifically business owners, entrepreneurs, this is their typical approach to their business and their life is, you know what, once I have more money, then I'm going to do these other things. And I'm going to be this really awesome person. I know that because that's how I used to approach it. And I see it play out all time and time again when you work with clients, when you work with other business owners, you meet business owners. That's typically how, when people talk, if you let people talk long enough, they'll tell you kind of what their mindset and what their belief system is. And that's typically what that story plays out to be. And it's, it's neither here nor there. I'm not saying people are doing it intentionally, but that's probably more the social programming, what we're led to believe is that, once you get the thing, then you're suddenly going to do something else, and then you're going to be a better person. And we actually have to invert that completely have to reverse that. And this is, I think, the thing that business owners don't get is that you actually have to start with you first. Mm-hmm. And you have to figure out who is it you have to be first and foremost. So if you want to be $1 million business owner, well, who is that person? What does that person actually act? Who do you have to be to become that person?
Yeah.
That's where you have to start. And if you want a $10 million business, I think we've talked about this before. How many people do you know or have heard, maybe not know, maybe you know some who have that you've heard stories about people who win the lottery?
Yeah, a lot of stories, yeah.
Yeah. And then you give them a year or two, what happens to 99% of these people?
They all lose all the money.
Right?
It's all gone.
Yeah. So that is a perfect example. I don't think anything kind of encapsulates that idea so much better than that. Is that if it were the case that once you have the money, you would suddenly do the things and you would be this amazing person, then all these people that win the lottery would be case study example after example of that happening. Mm-hmm. And what it does, it shows us that the inverse is actually true, is that without the ability, the lessons, the learning, the becoming the person that could actually handle that kind of money, you're going to fall down to your base programming. Mm-hmm. And so if you have a poor mentality, you have a poor mindset, all of those things, like that's what you're going to fall down to. Mm-hmm. So the idea is for business owners to help them realize is that when we talk about purpose and we talk about those bigger things, the idea is we're trying to also help you understand what it is that you're aiming for, not just from a goal standpoint, but as a person. Who does that person have to be? So when you say you want to do these things, like who is the person that actually does that? When you get clear on that, you'll realize that you have to play a much bigger game. So is it that, when I have $1 million business, then I'll suddenly donate whatever it is. And I'm going to be a real, person of integrity at that point. Yeah. Well, guess what? In order to be that, you actually have to be that person of integrity now. Yeah. And learn how to do that.
Yeah. No, it's absolutely true, because then, to give an example of, nobody ever starts a job from zero to a senior immediately. Like, you have to work and understand what the things you need to do as a junior, and then appreciate what it takes to do more as an intermediate, and then as a senior, and then as a leader, right? Yeah. You can't just hop in when you don't understand or have the appreciation of, or the previous experience how to do certain things, and then how to develop from that and go further. Yeah. And the same thing, applies at the gym. Nobody goes and starts benching 225. You work through it, and then you have the appreciation of, the process and what it requires to be that type of person that can do those things. And it comes down to grit, like we talked. You talked
that
about
plays
grit,
a huge thing. Yeah.
And grit is one of the key. I actually. I just remembered there was a person that was wearing a shirt at the gym that says recipe of grit, and it had like a table breakdown of like nutritional facts, like what is required. There's like discipline, desire, drive, and then something, and then the accumulation was a recipe for grit, right? I saw that, as kind of reminded me of the podcast we recorded. And, but yeah, so it just kind of comes down to that, and it's one of those things that's super important, that plays a big role in who you are trying to become and the things that you want to have.
Yeah, you have to get really clear on what it is, who that person is. Yeah. And understanding that, how that actually correlates or plays into your bigger goals, those bigger life goals, that purpose that you're here for. And once you know that, you can then, ask yourself the question, so if that's what I want, if that's what I believe I'm here to do, what is that person? Who is that person? Yeah. Right? Yeah. Like, who really is that person? What characteristics do they demonstrate day in, day out? Who is that? Because once you start there, then, right, when I'll be that person, you will do the things required to have all of those things. And I remember how it's the be, do, have framework. And there's a lot of, I think, variations of it. They all really say the same thing. And I remember hearing that framework, it had to have been like 15 years ago. when you hear it when you're younger, you're just like, oh yeah, like it kind of goes in, and you think you know what it means. You think you understand it maybe on a logical level, but until you really start to live it and you come face to face with the things that are holding you back, like you say, what got you here won't get you there, and all those things, then it starts to be like, oh wow. And when you really start to get clear on your purpose, then it becomes even more crystal clear for yourself of, oh, who is it that I am actually trying to become? Yeah. So, and if that's who I'm trying to become, why can't I start being that person now? Yeah. Right? If I want to say that I want to be a man of integrity, okay, what does that do? What does that mean? Okay, so why can't I start doing that now? Yeah. Right? Yeah. All those things. And if I say I want to support things, well, why can't I support them now? Why can't I, and then by doing that, I'm like, oh, well, if I say this is important to me and that person would donate and at least support something, okay, well then I'm actually out of integrity right now. So now I need to start doing things to align myself to that. And it just really starts to align everything much easier.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. Cause there's several times I've heard people say that, oh man, if I was making $500,000 a year, I would donate $50,000 immediately. And won't donate
anything right $5 right now.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is so just basic math, 50,000 out of 500,000, what, 10%? Make $1,000 right now a year, which is probably not possible, but if you're making $1,000 a year and you're not donating $100, you're never going to be that type of person that does it later down the road.
Or even $5.
Even $5, right? Yeah,
even
exactly.
$5.
Yeah.
The idea is that that is a great example of when people are just so incongruent with who they how they think the world works.
Yeah.
And it's like right now, if I was given a $1 billion company, I'm like, I know I would not possess. I'm humble enough to know I don't possess the skills required to do that. Mm-hmm. Right. So I have a certain skill level where I can manage up to, high tens, 100 million. Mm-hmm. Okay. That's fine. That complexity. But then beyond that, okay, well then there's another skill set that you have to continue to build, and even with numbers of people. And so you build a skill set, but even then, when you're going through that, if you're humble enough to learn the lesson and take the lesson from things, then it's again, who is it that I'm becoming? Who is it that I'm trying to, and then start to walk towards that, because then your life starts to turn around. It may not happen overnight, but it starts to align and move you where you want to go, versus it's really easy to excuse and be a victim when you say, oh, well, I just don't have that, so I can't do that. And so if you look around, if you look in your business, you're a business owner and you look around and you're wondering why you don't have what it is, ask yourself, what excuses are you making for yourself that you're allowing to be a crutch for you? Mm-hmm. Right? Remember, I heard it. It's a thing that you make excuse for is a thing that you're giving power.
Yeah.
Right? So if you want to blame something, you're basically giving that power. And I don't know about you. What? I know.
You know what we It's only been about 25 plus podcast episodes.
No.
I don't know about
just
you.
In terms of I'm not that's not
to say
no, it's just that's not how I want to go through life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why I know you're such a big proponent of finding your purpose, because that will automatically just align you to the person you're going to become and how that's going to help you make money,
and
right? Or have the things you want.
And I think the risk is that people will hear this and they think, oh, it becomes again that whole dichotomy, or I figure out my purpose and suddenly it's just easy, or it's not, because we're continually challenged day in and day out to live, those values. That's who is it that I'm becoming, right? Yeah. And so we're faced with those challenges every day to demonstrate, and you're not going to hit it 100%. Yeah. You're not going to. Yeah. But I would much rather continue to try than live a life of excuse and giving my power away. And I say that because but I also very realize that, like, even with everything that we are doing, there's areas I know I could be doing better, but I'm also knowing that, guess what? I'm just getting a little bit better all the time.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. One of the things my mom says all the time is, like, to gain something, you have to give something. And the older I get, the more, experience I have, the more I have appreciation of those types of things, because nothing comes without, there's no silver bullet. There's nothing that, comes without putting in effort, putting in work.
Nothing of value.
Yeah.
Nothing of value comes without.
Yeah, absolutely. And that again, like, then my mind starts thinking about all the things that, our ancestors and our forefathers, like, would talk about and say, like, the yin and the yang, everything has equal balance. And, like, my brain just starts going, is like, they've all figured these things out. It's just a matter of, like, the more you grow as a person, the more you understand, you bridge that gap yourself.
If you're along the path.
Along the path, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Some people will go through life, just absolutely blissfully ignorant.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, it's a short podcast today.
No, I mean, that was really just one that topic kind of just struck me, because I do think that there's a lot of business owners out there, or people in general, and we're not speaking to everybody. That's the other thing, right? Like, we're speaking to a very, very select, very minor subset of the population.
People that are
talking.
Yeah.
That when you look around, yes, there are people. And this doesn't say that there aren't people out there that go and build a big business and things like that, right? But if you and people will tend to look at this one thing that they will hinge all the success on and say, oh yeah, like, they went and did it, and then what they don't see is the aftermath, right? When the wheels fall off the wagon and stuff is breaking down, people are leaving, they're deserting the ship and stuff like that, because just like the people who won the lottery and lost it all, a lot of those people go through and suddenly they find out, oh, wow, they have to learn a lot of hard lessons really quick. And so what we're trying to do is say, look at where you are, be really objective with yourself, look at it and understand that if this is resonating with you, if you're feeling maybe a little kind of like a sandpaper on the soul, that's a good thing. That's something you should listen to. Like, there's nothing wrong with getting a little sandpaper on the soul once in a while, because that should be the things that start to, like, oh, I need to pay attention to that. Why is that? Why is that
happening? Yeah.
Happening. Why am I reacting that way to that? Okay, there might be something there. So if this message is resonating that way, there's probably something there. And we're not saying you're a bad person. All we're saying is, like, this is what we've experienced.
Yeah.
And these are the constant cases or the examples that we do see happening, right? That when you actually look at what life is telling you, that this is actually a thing.
Yeah.
That in order to have the things and to do the things to have the things, you have to be the person that's deserving of doing the things to have those things. And ultimately that's going to get you there.
Yeah. Well, us as humans, we're all wired very similarly. It's just a matter of, like, again, we've said this, there's nothing new under the sun that we're talking about. It's just a matter of reaching the people that are looking for these answers, looking for the growth, looking for the opportunities, looking for somebody that has experienced these things and is able to help identify them, for somebody that is, searching for the answer. Right?
Well, I think you actually just hit it. You made me, you reminded me of it when you said your mom says, when you want something,
to gain something,
you have to basically, there's always a trade-off, right?
Yeah.
And so what we're doing right now is we're giving you a trade-off, right?
Yeah.
We're saying here, you can take the lesson and you can actually, we'll trade your ignorance, right? Because maybe you don't know, and we'll trade that, and here's some experience for that. We'll give you a nice little trade there.
Yeah.
Or, right, you could continue to say, oh no, that's fine, and you can be ignorant, but you will pay with it taking you longer to get there.
Yeah.
So that is the price of your ignorance right now, is that price becomes paid in time. Mm-hmm. And so what we're trying to do here with this podcast and what we're doing is actually we're trying to help people. No, we're trying to help you condense time frames, because time, as we know it, is finite for us in terms of our lifespans.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And anyone to claim any different, I mean.
Yeah. And the last thing we want you to do is, 20, 30 years down the road, you're like, gosh, just wish I listened back then,
I mean,
I just wish I had the resources.
I have enough of those, that have accumulated over the time where like, oh man, if I had just done the calls I needed to do when I was sitting in the office when I first launched my coaching company, and I had just learned marketing back then, and I had just, but guess what? You pay in time. Your ignorance pays in time. And so if you are open, if you have an open and learning mindset, well, funny enough, we're coming back to mindset again. You can help yourself and start to condense those timeframes, because you can learn from the mistakes, the missteps of other people.
Yeah.
And some of those things, like some of the lessons, you'll just learn faster. That's it. Doesn't mean you're going to avoid the pain of those things.
Yeah.
Right. So when you are learning to lead people, and you're not going to communicate perfectly, and you're going to mess it up, and you're still going to get angry. Right. Guess what? but you're going to move through it faster, because you're more open to getting feedback and help with that, as opposed to just continuing to do that over and over. The pain threshold is still there.
Yeah.
I feel like we're just in a few different topics right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, those are things. It's I probably the biggest thing I see with people is just their mindset around where their priorities. And they're so focused on, actually it's not, I don't think it's focus now that we think about it. Well, it's lack of focus, but they're playing a losing game.
Yeah.
The losing game of, they don't even realize that you are paying it. You're just making excuses, because you're just saying, oh, okay, because in your mind it makes sense that, okay, because you have a scarcity mindset, because you don't know what it is to have more.
Yeah.
You don't know what that's like. Okay, well, because I get it. I've come from a place where I've bought food for my kids and their mother, like canned food. It was like the cheapest food you could possibly get, like eating out of cans. So I get it, and at that point you don't really understand, like, oh, there's more. You can see it, but you don't really know. And so he's like, oh, when I get this little bit more, I'm going to go do this. And then suddenly everything's going to be okay. Yeah. Then we convince ourselves, we believe that lie. And then, inevitably we just lead lives of just quiet desperation, as Joe Rogan said. And I think that's just a depressing fucking thing. Mm-hmm. And I don't want people to go through that. I don't want people to suffer that. I want people to, like, don't delude yourself. Mm-hmm. That's the lesson of today's podcast. Don't fucking delude yourself by believing that once you have this thing, that suddenly you're going to go do this thing and you're going to become a better person. Nope. That's absolutely not right.
Yeah.
Is you got to go be the fucking person.
Because the other opposite is like, well, what if you never get it? You're just never going to be a good person, never going to try to be the person you want to be.
No, I think
get one other thing.
Here's what it is. If you think that through, you don't even get that far. It's not even being a good person. You're not even thinking about that. All you think about is, oh, well, you know what? I just couldn't do it because I didn't have these things. I didn't have the right opportunities. I didn't have the right mentor. I didn't have the right education. And so you can excuse it all away. So I don't even think it comes to a conversation about, whether or not you're a good person, because in your mind, you're a great person. You just didn't have the things that you needed to have so you could do and be that successful person.
Yeah.
Right. So like, well, this is just what life dealt for me. You just have to live with that. Fuck that.
Absolutely.
Just ending on a
fuck that, and then just drop.
Mic drop.
Video cancels. Yeah.
So yeah, that's I think that's probably a good place.
Yeah.
Stop
I agree.
there.
I think, obviously you guys can see our passion about that stuff because, we've been on the opposite end, and we've had those ideas and dreams that people do without putting any effort in it. And the reality is, like,
we've lived the delusion, believing that once this thing happens, then suddenly, like, we're going to do things differently.
Yeah.
No.
And everybody goes through that. We're here to remind you that it's going to take work.
Takes work.
It's going to require you to be the person you weren't yesterday. It's going to require you to be the person you want to be in the future.
And you can start being that person right now.
As of this podcast episode.
Great.
And our previous ones.
Now, and all of the other ones and every other one.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. Thank you. If you're new to the channel, I'm Darris.
Saad.
We are Biz Meds, here to give you the minimum effective dose for your business. And today was all about making sure you don't delude yourself, living a life of quiet desperation where you are trapped in the lie, where you believe that once you have something, you're going to do something different. It doesn't work like that. No, you have to go be the person that you need to be. So you will do the things you need to do to have the things that you want. And so if you're new, welcome. If you're with us from the beginning, thank you. Everyone, thank you. Saad's mom, love you. Thank you. Mom, love you and thank you. Everyone, we appreciate you on the journey. We just want you to remember, if you found something you liked, share it. And you are just one day away from the life you've always dreamed about. Sign up for the free masterclass in the link below. We will see you in the next episode.